I am Dr. Ruchika Verma, a postdoctoral fellow in Department of Psychology, University of Allahabad. I am going to present a lecture on struggling women of Manipur and Armed Force Special Powers Act with special reference to Irom Sharmila. This module has been written by Deepti Priya Mehrotra, Assistant Professor in Lady Shri Ram College, Delhi. The introduction of Manipur as a state is in northeast India has been marked by sharp political conflict and turmoil over the past few decades. Also, it is known for an exceptionally rich culture, world-class theatre, sports, dance and literature. There are some 29 major tribal groups dwelling in the hill districts, classified into two broad ethnic dominations, Nagas and Kuki-Chins, while Imphal Valley is inherited by Meiteis, numerically the largest population group. Manipur was independent kingdom since 33 AD with elaborate systems of governance in 1891 and a princely state under British suzerain. Now, who are the peoples of Manipal? Who are the people of Manipur? The people of Manipur struggled against colonial rule and later engaged in movements for justice vis-a-vis the Indian state. Over the centuries, people of valley and hills have interacted and depended on each other for their needs, for their relations at times of turbulence and other times in peaceful also. The last few decades has witnessed a rise in ethnic conflicts. So, there is a growing friction in the relationship among people in Manipur. Women of Manipur have held a central position in management of household, agriculture and trade. They played prominent roles in public protest, individually and in collective, and the ancient and medieval period of folk oral literature of Manipuri languages was the literature of protest. The protagonist ways of women, the nucleus power in the group form is intact. Ordinary women of Manipur had a right to collectively present grievances to the king. In response to women's demand, a king sometimes granted reprieve to a person sentenced to a death. So, there is a total system where the king listened to the demands of women. Women often use their right of appeal to correct state policies, and during British regime, women waged two Nupilan women's wars against unjust policies of the state. The first Nupilan War was fought in 1904 when government issued an order for Manipuri men to go to Kabo, cut timber and build colonial offices and bungalows. Thousands of women demonstrated in Imphal demanding withdrawal of this order for forced labor. So, there was a forced labor for women and during the first Nupilan War. Women vendors led the movement and then they tried to fight for their rights. The next point relevant in the context of first Nupilan War was that in 1917 to 19, Kukis rebelled against forced labor recruitment. In the mid 1920s, a movement in Tamenglong district mobilized people towards Naga unity against unjust laws, compulsory porterage and exorbitant house tax. There was lot of confusion within the state during the period from 1920 to 1931. There were so many leaders who fought for the various rights of the women. The confusion came more prominent when a 13-year-old girl was died. British forces captured her in October 1932 and sentenced her to life imprisonment. She spent most of her life in prison in the Mizo Hills and Meghalaya. In 1947, she was awarded a pension, but kept in exile in Nagaland, and in 1972, she was awarded a Freedom Fighter Award, and in 1987, a Padma Bhushan. Then came the second Nupilan War. The second Nupilan took place in response to artificial famine in 1939, created by the British policy of exporting paddy, which coupled with hoarding led to severe shortages. Women of Manipur petitioned the political agent for a ban on rice export. A women's delegation confronted the president of Manipur State Darbar, T.A. Sharp and forced him to send a telegram to the Maharaj, who was out of Manipur. Leaders during this included Chao Biton Devi, Abhimal Devi and Tongu Devi and others. There were almost 4,000 women who gathered at the telegraph office. Militarization and AFSPI, that is Armed Force Special Power Act. Manipur regained independence along with India in August 1947. But on October 15, 1949, the last king, Buddha Chandra, signed a merger agreement in India. It became a Part C state in the Indian Union, creating widespread discontentment. People struggled for recognition as a full-fledged state, while some rebels kept up a demand for self-determination. Although Manipur became a full state in 1972, its economy, which had deteriorated under colonial rule, continued to decline. The Indians responded violently to the insurgent growth. There was a question that why Manipur was declining in the economy. Some of the armed insurgent groups in Manipur are United National Liberation Front, PRIPAC, the Kuki National Army and the National Socialist Council of Nagaland. Some were separated and others demanded proper people armed development within the Indian Union. And there was relentless crimes against ordinary women, children and men have led to continuous demand by women's group and human rights groups against the imposition of AFSPA and intensive struggles for justice. Women groups expressed strong opposition to AFSPA since its inception, and it was strong in 1980. Now, since Armed Force Special Protection Act was totally revolted by women, women's group in Manipur came in front against militarization. Throughout Manipur, Meera Pebis and other women's groups take up issues related to militarization and military excesses. All these groups oppose militarization and AFSPA. They also take issues specific to women such as rape and molestation. They are uncompromised, pitted against such violence, and they totally revolted against such activities. They said that the AFSPA can never be accepted at any cost. Virtually every community in Manipur developed a strong women's front and carried out similar actions for protection of the women, children and men of their area. However, in 1974, a young Tangluk girl in the village was raped by armed force and she later committed suicide. The community, especially women community, came forward, showed protest and formed Shanao Long, a women's group. In 1980, Manipur was declared a disturbed area and AFSPA was imposed. And on 14th May 1980, women submitted a memorandum to the Chief Minister demanding removal of the disturbed area clause and revocation of AFSPA. They held a mass meeting at Mapil Kangji Bong, Imphal, and formed an organization called Manipur Napi Kanglup, which is popularly known as MNK. MNK organized a rally on 28th May at which some 10,000 women gathered, defying a ban on mass meeting. Police cracked down on the gathering and arrested a large number of women and took them in truck. A 25 pregnant woman, Pyari Devi of Salan, fell from the truck and died. These kind of incidences provoked women for another kind of revolution, and there was a fast for justice for repeal of AFSPA. On November 2, 2000, Indian security forces gunned down 10 innocent people standing at a bus stop in Malom village near Imphal. Irom Sharmila, an ordinary young woman, spontaneously decided to go on a protest fast, because out of those 10,000 women, one was this Irom Sharmila who made a remarkable contribution for the repeal of AFSPA in Imphal. She went to the site of the massacre and began her fast right there and gathered around many people in the solidarity and demand for repeal of AFSPA. 15 years later, Irom Sharmila's fast continued. Every year she is released and she continues her fast in public, is rearrested and remanded to judicial custody. She is forced fed through a nasal tube. She lives in solitary confinement, a small bare room with a lady home guard to keep watch over her at night. On 10 December 2008, Mera Pebis began an indefinite relay hunger strike in solidarity with the demand to repeal FSPA. The relay hunger strike also promoted, along with a few women sitting every day inside a makeshift bamboo shelter and the security wing of JN Hospital, in which Sharmila was kept. Every year, people of Manipur celebrate a festival of peace because the scene of the Manipur was such that the women was restless and was continuously trying to remove FSPA from the state. Every year, people of Manipur celebrate a festival of peace, justice and hope during the first week of November, commemorating the start of Sharmila's fast, and that became an event in the history of Manipur. Songs, plays, discussions, film screening, multi-faith prayers and solidarity fast mark the event, and supporters hold solidarity fast, songs and discussion wherever they are in different cities in different countries. Irom Sharmila represent the voice of the ordinary people of Manipur. Physically isolated and seemingly frail, Sharmila's spirit remains exceptionally strong. She was an inspiration, a practitioner of Gandhian non-violence, a woman of iron will who challenged the high-headedness of state power. What was, however, recently Irom Sharmila died, and there was the struggle of Sharmila was completed with her death. The impact of women's movement in Manipur. Public opinion in Manipur and outside has responded positively to the women's protest. By their extraordinary modes of protest, Manipuri women have brought human rights abuse and the context in which it is taking place with the impunity to the world attention. Now, to conclude, Manipuri women's stand against FSPA is a direct challenge to state repression, sexual violence and militaristic mentality which glorifies practices associated with war and military. Women's actions against violence have drawn national and global attention to the condition of women under armed repression in Manipur. They should not negotiate a solution, but they created new ways to think forward in this particular direction. So, women in Manipur, they struggled a lot and they tried to, the situation of the women was in such a pitiable condition that the state was supposed to give a thought to it. Thank you so much.